5 years ago, I was traveling through a small village in South India where I saw a funeral procession. Nearby, a farming family had committed suicide because that year the monsoon rains had failed, and along with them the crops. And as a result, the yields collapsed and a family took their own lives. And that got me thinking, we have all this technology here in Silicon Valley, and especially around AI and data is just growing exponentially. Why aren't we doing enough for the farmers and others out there in the world? Especially in these times of climate change, they're bearing the brunt of climate change. Why aren't we doing enough?
When you look at what's possible with precision agriculture today, we really could give people 20% more food for 30% less cost, and that changes everything globally. For the longest time, you've had this dream that aerial imagery or other things could help, and too often it's really just told you things you already knew. It didn't help you make a new decision, didn't give you net new insights. Today, it's now finally possible to get that insight into how a plant is feeling, things you can't see with your eye, things you can't know at scale, for every plant in a field, and genuinely make better decisions. Decisions that could reduce water usage by 20%. Decisions that could improve sustainability by having less pressure, fewer nitrogen usage, less pesticides, more efficient use of water, and yet higher yields. It's kind of the holy grail. Growing is challenging. When you think of the life of a grower, they have so much they have to be able to do and get right in an ever-changing landscape. The weather's different this year, the bloom was earlier, the bloom was later, whatever it is, there's constant challenges. And the holy grail would be to be able to fine-tune yield for every plant. Even within every block would be amazing.
A lot of technology that can be used to solve all of those problems. You can use less fertilizer, you can water when it needs to be watered, but not too much. You can apply different kinds of pest control solutions. You can use lighting in different ways for indoor farming or vertical farming.
It's the largest industry currently that is still yet to be digitized. It hasn't been transformed over to online management, data analysis, things like that. What excites me most is the tangibility of the industry. It actually ends up producing a product. And that product has the capability to do a lot of good to a lot of people.
Labor is by far the biggest problem we have. We just don't have enough skilled labor to do what we need on the farm and in the harvest operations. My people out in the field, as great as they are, they struggle with technology. Number one, they're fearful of it, to be quite honest. They see technology come in the field and they immediately think that this is a robot that's going to replace them and they're going to be out of a job, which is the farthest thing from the truth. As I said earlier, we don't want to replace our workers. There's just not enough of them around.
I think really what we're saying is, look, as a practical matter, there's simply going to be fewer people available, and in order to make sure we've got a food security, food supply, the idea of man and machine working side by side is something to expect. Innovation is not new in ag. I think the pace of technology development and opportunity has certainly been accelerating. So in the last 10 years, the need to solve problems with technology and innovation the dynamic has changed, the market incentives are there, the practical need is there. So I think that's one of the things that's accelerated things. You know, I once had an entrepreneur ask me, hey, how fast before growers adopt? And I said, you know, frankly, in my view, the most aggressive, growers at best are aggressive incrementalists. You know, they're going to look at things over a 2 or 3 year period. The reality is when they change pretty quickly.
IoT is a world where data is as valuable as gold because as we have more data, we can make better informed decisions to influence a crop, to influence our personal health, or what's going on in our households. What is this ultimate transparency? How do we actually show consumers the production story of food as the farmer would see it? And so we invented this. This is our Kakasi device. It's completely solar powered, connected by 3G. Internally we have sensors for temperature, humidity, solar intensity, and rainfall, as well as a camera that will take pictures on an interval to show the seed to harvest story to consumers. All of the data is transferred by 3G, and we compile the photos into a time-lapse video so you can literally kind of see your food growing before you.
Arable is a data and analytics company that has an in-field sensor that gathers all kinds of vital signs from weather and crops and turns that into analytics to help understand what is happening in the field. Kind of hard to imagine for a lot of people that a device could be out there on its own making HTTP calls, which are using this data channel and taking information and bringing it back, which has opened up all kinds of sort of measurement capabilities at the size of a tiny chip. And because we've got cell phones, a lot of that sensing is consumer level cost, which means it's cheap, and it's intrinsically low power. It's using microvolts.
IoT is essentially devices communicating to each other, and that's through data. In Agtech, farming equipment manufacturers that now have devices that are automatically taking soil samples and providing data right back to say you're applying fertilizer, and it's kind of real time, so now they know how much they should apply.
The devices can typically operate individually. For example, the Kakasi device, we designed it for plug-and-play implementation. We can literally set it to the field in over 130 countries, and all we have to do is switch on a button, and the device is pre-configured and will also connect to the internet via 3G on its own. So it's a very much an autonomous sensor, but kind of brings data that can bring data from the field to you anywhere in the world.
Farmers are not engineers, and they don't need to know anything about information technology. They just need information presented in a way that's consumable. And a lot of early agtech startups failed because they didn't understand the farmer's job. So what does a grower do every day? How do they manage their employees? How do they deal with what's happening in the field? What kinds of decisions do they have to make, and when do they make them, and how? And so if you understand the job and what they need to do, then you can focus the technology on that and make all of that information presentable and consumable. And they don't have to worry about that. They just have to use the information.
I think our general feeling is that the jobs of the future in the field are likely to be higher skilled, better working conditions. Could there be some shifts of who does what? That's probably realistic. Education is going to be real important. You've got to train tomorrow's workers, extend the productive work lives of today's workers. But the pertinent point is where you plant a tech flag in one area, developing those skills creates additional opportunities, because technology obviously has permeated all of our lives in many respects. And, if we believe Moore's Law, it's just going to keep doubling.
Something I think is fascinating is 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you wanted to do this kind of thing, you almost needed to be an engineer as well as a grower. I don't think that's true anymore. Today, you could really just be someone who expects and should receive meaningful insights with supporting data. We fly planes, we gather data, we make it all possible, stitch together data you already have, your applied water schedule, maybe sensors in the field, and assemble all that into a clear picture. driven by insights. The kind of thing you might hear from a PCA is the kind of thing you should expect from a good technology solution, and I think that's finally possible. Precision agriculture has been sometimes portrayed as disruptive in a negative way. Maybe it's going to cost people jobs, maybe it's going to disrupt communities and upset things. Any major technology revolution has tended in the end to make stronger communities and open up new possibilities. This seems very likely with precision agriculture today. If I as a grower know exactly where the issues are in my field, I can use my labor's time more efficiently. If I can use them more efficiently, they become inherently more valuable. If they're more valuable, I can use them in a way I couldn't before, because I get more yield for each bit of work they're doing.
You know, on one hand, everybody wants everything yesterday. It's clear that's not going to be how the deal works. But it's also clear there's no turning back. We're not going to go back to certain wage structures, complete availability of labor, ease of crossing borders. You know, we're heading to a new place. So I don't think there's any turning back. But I think it's important to manage expectations.